I can do this all day.
Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham, and we are back. It's the last podcast of the pre-season. We're here to discuss the game against Eintracht Frankfurt, here to talk about all the transfers that have happened recently, as in none of the transfers, and just to give a bit of a look ahead to the season, see how everything's tracking at the moment and see how the three of us feel about Fulham currently. Here joining me to talk it all through, firstly I'll throw to Sam, rocking a brilliant moustache there. Sammy, how are we?
Thank you. I'm going very good. I did my usual arm thing, but then I got challenged before we started, and I've actually made myself quite tired now, so I'm slightly lightheaded. What's been happening? Been watching Normal People recently. That was emotionally brutal. So everything is up from there. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Like I like to keep myself scarce, so it's important. And yeah, I could not be happier to be joined with you and my Fulham best friend.
Speaking of your Fulham best friend, Skibby, how are we today?
I'm very well. I'm a little bit touched there. Fulham best friend is a big honour, so I feel like that's something to add to the CV. So that's all cool. But no, it's all good. Like you say, coming to the end of pre-season, we've actually had a decent summer over in the UK. I mean, we had a little bit of a blip a couple of weeks ago, but I think we're sitting pretty about 30 degrees at the moment, which is
Cool.
Everyone says that our houses do not breathe, and I can't have my window open because someone will no doubt be mowing their lawn on this fine day or sitting outside and creating a load of noise. So I'm currently in an absolute sweatbox with, all this equipment that's now radiating heat. So yeah, that's how I feel. It's great to be here, and it's great to be sweating one out with you boys.
Love it. Well, I'm sat here in my Fulham Christmas jumper. It's
I
say it's cold here in Perth today. It's a chilly 16 degrees in the middle of winter here, so we're surviving.
That's the thing,
but
isn't it? Don't you have like an Aussie Christmas in like July or something?
Some people
no,
do, yeah.
some people do.
That is
Very
absolutely
lame officers
bizarre.
do.
It's actually a lot
Yeah.
of English people who are over here who just want to have a Sunday roast and just try to justify it. But it
Just have
doesn't
a
it doesn't
Sunday
really
roast.
fly. That's what, yeah, I
Just
agree.
have a
I
roast on a
agree.
Sunday.
No, but it's like preparation, and lots of people, like Australians, are lazy. We don't like the effort that comes into a Sunday roast, you know?
Well,
No.
all right.
Just
Well,
talking about
let's
that, I was offended as hell when I saw that. But anyway.
let's crack into it anyway, guys. It's the final game of pre-season. It's all wrapped up now. Skibby, you were there at the game at the Cottage.
Yeah.
The only game at the Cottage for pre-season. I swear in the last few years we played more than just one pre-season game at the Cottage. Feels a bit strange to have 3 games at Motspur and just the one at the Cottage before the season starts. But you were there. Firstly, atmosphere, Skibby. How many people were at the game? What was the sort of atmosphere like? Did you feel the buzz of the season coming around the corner?
No. No, I mean, I think the Riverside was full-ish. Hammersmith probably only had about maybe 1,000, 2,000, if that. And I think the Johnny Haynes looked pretty rammed. And then obviously the Putney end was closed. So, yeah, it was a weird one. It felt like a friendly. It really did. Off the pitch and on the pitch. But you know what? So obviously myself, Mark, Dave, and Nick, we all met up. I brought the girlfriend of my dad, obviously, and yeah, we just seemed to, we wanted to have a good day out on the river and sort of see what the Riverside's all about, and that's kind of what we did. That was great fun. So we all met at sort of the Blue Anchor on the river. Sun was beaming down. It was great to have a pint or two with them there, and then we had the leisurely walk down as you normally do. And then we went into unfamiliar territory for us. I think Mark is normally in the Johnny Haynes, myself, Dave in the Hammersmith end. So we went to obviously the Riverside and the new Fulham Pier, and that was completely open to the public all game, which was really bizarre. So you had people like sitting in the bar with their dogs, and you were just like, I was like, when do I scan my ticket? I was already, for those that have been into the actual building, I was already at the main bar as you sort of go in. So you kind of had the doors to your seat and to your block on your left. You just go up a couple of steps and there was someone there. And I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be here without scanning a ticket. But hey, I guess that's what they wanted to do. And with it being friendly and being quiet, they just left it open.
Did you like it? Like, that's my question.
Do you know what? It was a vibe. I really liked it. Part of me was thinking, would I sacrifice the atmosphere of the Hammersmith end for, you know, this bougie, quiet, nice bar, nice toilets? You even had a merch pop-up shop in there as well, so you didn't have to go to the dingy stadium store and queue for hours, trying to always squeeze past. I don't know if you guys have been, but it's always a tight squeeze that you're just like, excuse me, I just want to... And, you know, it's the English way. I just need to... Oh, sorry, just there? Yeah. And everyone's like this the whole time. But it was really nice. It was like the pop-up. We saw the shirt in the flesh. The home shirt is clean. It's probably the cleanest Fulham shirt I have seen. Since Dabs, I would say. Just the little intricate markings are fantastic.
Sorry, I love that all your rage against the machine just completely dissolved when you were given a glass of champagne and a strawberry.
That's
it's
it.
just like, fuck the system, but this is nice.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, exactly. They made this is not Fulham, but it is pretty swanky. But no, it was lovely, and yeah, I mean, you didn't have to queue too long for a beer. The beer was actually cheaper than the pubs that we were going to on the way, so that was pretty nice. And yeah, I mean, Mark was absolutely on one. For one moment, he went and got a hot dog. Then I think he got some tacos. Then I think
he got face painted, didn't he?
He got his face painted, beer in hand. I think that was actually taken by the official Fulham photographer. So there you go. You'll see a grown-ass man,
happy.
Beer in hand with the glittery. Yeah, I mean, I thought I was jealous. It just wouldn't take to the beard. So I was like, I could get it on my forehead maybe. But no, then we met Billy the Badger. That was cool. I'm taller than Billy the Badger. That is a question that's plagued me for ages. So that was cool. And yeah, then we sat down and took our seats about half an hour before kickoff. Saw Kenny and Kenny. Well, we did see Kenny. Saw Bassi and Wilson get their rewards for last season. So that was good. And yeah, even more bizarre, I was then sitting right next to the Frankfurt players. So that was the kind of giveaway for me that there was a behind closed doors friendly earlier. A lot of Frankfurt players were sitting next to me and not playing, Wahi being one of them, and I think it's Noan, I think the winger, I think who ended up getting being the both scorers in the 3-1 loss. But that was kind of surreal as well. Real big dude next to me though. Like some German fans were like trying to get to them and like sign things, and he was just like going, no, go away. And I'm like, I don't know who most of these players are, but I was just like, hi.
Sorry, should we invoice
asking about the thing? But yeah.
Sorry, should we be invoicing the Cottage for Skibby's official sponsorship? Like that's been going on for the last 6 minutes. I feel like we should get like some form of compensation. That was a good sell.
Well, it's a good experience. I mean, I wouldn't pay 150 quid for it per game.
That is the rub.
But
I think what you've described though just proves the appeal for a sort of one-off visitor. And when you talk about tourists being attracted to the Cottage and getting a really top-class experience when you come across, this is the place to come and watch Premier League football. Does it make a little bit more sense now that you've seen the setup?
It does. And I think... And you're quite.
Or does that make it more acceptable as well, or feel more acceptable?
It doesn't sit right with me from a moral perspective, because it was always advertised as for us, for the Fulham fans, but it's not. And I think if you're now seeing it in the marketing campaign that they're being a bit more clear with it now, that it's not for us, it's for the tourists, it's for the day trippers. And like you say, I'm a keen football fan. When I go abroad, I like to go to other games, like when I'm visiting another country. And yeah, if you can't get a Premier League ticket, then you've got this option where it's actually like semi-hospitality. It's not, you haven't got everything served to you on a silver platter for 300 quid, but you do have all the options there. The seats are really nice, the padding, and to be honest, I don't think there's going to be any stand in the league which will have you as close as you are to the players than Craven Cottage, because Like there was moments where TC was warming up, and like I could reach out and touch him, and I was four rows back. Like he was so close. So I think as a football fan, I can see the appeal. I can see why they've done it, and I think it is in a way a good idea to rinse tourists to generate the revenue. But
the problem is we're collateral.
Well, the problem is when you look at hospitality and that kind of experience in other clubs, they give maybe a block of their entire stadium. We've given an entire stand, which that doesn't sit right with me. But I mean, yeah, it's impressive. The actual public walkway and everything like that is really cool, and I think I'm actually tempted to go down on a non-match day just to see, because I think even Nick said that he went to the restaurant that was on I think it's on the 3rd floor, that's on the balcony overlooking the river, and he said that he got like a burger and chips meal for like, I think it was like 18 quid, and I was thinking, you know what, as pub prices go in London, that's not far off. Like you're probably spending about 16 quid for a gourmet burger and sit down meal. So I don't know. I think they probably priced it quite well, but it is impressive. And yeah, I really enjoyed the day out. I think the game was a bit naff, but other than that, it was just cool to sort of experience it. But yeah, like you say, it just felt like a friendly. It didn't feel like the league is right around the corner for us, but it was good to get the minutes in the guys' legs, to be fair.
Well, as you mentioned, it was there was a game before. You were sitting next to some of the Frankfurt players. A sort of second string for both Frankfurt and for Fulham were put out at Motspur Park earlier in the day. Fulham lost that game 3-1. In terms of the lineup that Fulham put out on the day, though, Skibby, I guess I'll throw to you first. Did that feel like the 11 that we sort of expect to see next weekend, or at least very close to it?
I think so, and I think I was very surprised to see that King had got the nod ahead of Andreas and Smith Rowe. I thought that Smith Rowe would potentially come in for Iwobi, but then again, I think it would be really harsh to drop Iwobi, given the sort of his recent season. So I think King starting was something that we all wanted to see, but something that we wouldn't be surprised if it didn't happen. But I think what we've seen from this pre-season tour, from the results and from the teams going out, that King is going to play a big part this season. And for those fantasy players, he's only 4.5 mil, and he looks ready. He is up for it. He was probably one of our bright sparks on the day. But I think other than that, there was no real surprises. I think it was the back line we expected, with Jedi coming back from an injury. The Berger and Lukic combination, which I'm actually starting to like in a weird way. Against Frankfurt, being that close to the players and you could sort of see their movement and their play, it was just very Barclays era Premiership type midfield duo. They're very big, they're very physical. I think Lukic kicked the shit out of someone, I can't remember who it was, but left him in a heap on the floor for quite a while. But that was quite nice to see. But yeah, I think Wilson we expected, Iwobi we expected. I think we wanted to see Muniz. There's something weird going on with Muniz. So we all saw players on the bench. They walked across the pitch to the bench, the players that played in the earlier game. So it was quite easy to see Smith Rowe, Pereira. We saw Reedy. I didn't see Muniz. Apparently he was there. Apparently he had his hood up. And bear in mind, he's normally a very smiley guy. It's very warm day as well. No one else had hoods up. I think the only other player was Diop, but he could have been having a sulk equally. But it just didn't seem the character. He normally is very smiley, shows his face, and kind of has a bit of banter with the fans. I saw Pereira sort of leaning over the back of the bench and talking to people and stuff like that, which I thought was cool. But yeah, there just seems something off about Muniz. I thought he was the one who would get the nod going into the season, but again, you've got to take into consideration that Jimenez has had a really good international break, scored a couple of goals and had a successful Gold Cup, but at the same time, absolutely rifled the free kick at the same time. So it was, I can see it, but also with all the chat around Muniz in the background. We're around Atalanta and potentially Leeds and things like that. There's something brewing that just doesn't look quite right for me.
I already want to like pose a question to you guys, because I'm just telling you straight out, because after the last couple of times I've had to engage with the transfer window, I just check out. I literally just check out. I know that we've spent next to nothing. I know that we're a joke in that respect, but I just, for my own brain cells, I really can't, because it just rots me. But like, I know that there is a lot of interest in Muniz. I've heard it from like a lot of like my friends who are like Man United supporters and even like Chelsea supporters, that like there's a lot of eyes on him. What's like the current story at like the moment, and where we are with this? Because I can kind of understand if he's conflicted, if he's getting like some pretty serious interest from clubs like that.
I think there's probably a few things going. The first thing is he's on a pretty average contract at the moment. So there's one thing there. He's probably negotiating that behind the scenes, whilst Atalanta are probably the biggest suitors for him, and it would sort of make sense as well. They're lining up a 40 million euro bid at the moment, it seems, and I think at that point, would I accept that for Muniz? I'd probably want 40 million pounds minimum, because I think you need to spend a decent chunk of that again to get a replacement striker, and at that point we need to get 2 replacement strikers because we lost Vinny as well. Leeds were showing some interest as well, but I'm not sure they're going to have the funds to stump up for that at that point. And so he's probably in limbo a bit. I'd say the other issue that I have, and I really wanted Muniz to come into this season as our starting striker, but has he hit the back of the net in pre-season at all? I don't think so. I think Harry Wilson's got maybe behind closed doors against
Forest.
No, Forest wasn't behind closed doors, was it?
We scored. It was 3-1, wasn't it?
No, maybe against Sheffield he might have scored one of the goals,
Maybe.
but or Aberdeen maybe at the start of the season. I think he got one in that game behind closed doors. But since then, you want your starting striker to be rifling them in all pre-season and come into the season with, 4 or 5 goals from your 6 or 7 pre-season games. So far, Muniz has got one in the very first game back in July, almost a month ago, and Jimenez has now got 2 in the last 2 games. I think that probably speaks volumes about who's going to start the season, and for me, it's probably going to have to be Jimenez, because you pick your most informed player. I think similarly, when you look at someone like Wilson, who's scored 4 goals in pre-season so far, he's sort of picking himself. And again, I'm sort of surprised that Smith Rowe didn't get a start. He's scored 3 goals in pre-season so far, and is actually looking. I thought he combined really well with Wilson in some of those games over in Portugal. I think he was starting to look like he was settling, but then again, I think Josh King has actually probably come on leaps and bounds and proven to be almost someone who looks kind of undroppable at the moment. He's definitely my biggest highlight out of pre-season so far, is seeing his performances easily. But I think there's a lot going on in the background. There's obviously a lot of transfer news, and we'll touch on it in a bit as well. But definitely, it seems that Muniz is potentially unsettled. He hasn't been sort of the preferred option in the last couple of games, and I'd say that new contract and potential move would be hanging over him a bit, because he's been quite settled at Fulham for, I think this is his 5th year at the club now. So he's been around a while, and all of a sudden you've got big clubs coming in for him. He's got big decisions to make. Atalanta are playing Champions League football and offering him to be their replacement starting striker. So is he getting that sort of guarantee at Fulham? I'm not sure he is at the moment, because he's definitely sort of head-to-head with Jimenez at all times, and he kind of knows that if he has a bad patch, Jimenez steps in. So I'm sure he's got a lot on his mind. But I guess talking more about the rest of the squad, Skibby, we've only made one signing, which is Lecomte in goal. Do you feel like we're light on the ground at the moment, or do you feel confident at least in attacking the first couple of fixtures before the transfer window closes?
I think as a squad, as a Premier League squad, we're pretty good in terms of depth. I think there's some definite areas of concern, given that you just highlighted Muniz being unsettled. We potentially need that third striker. And if we can't get one in, then, who comes through? We don't really have any youth strikers either. I think Ollie Sanderson went out on loan, so it's very light on the ground from a striker perspective. And I think we also saw it as well. Obviously, with the Frankfurt game, that Cess went off injured. That's a concern. If Cess is injured and so is Jedi coming back from his surgery, then Castagna comes in, but at the same time, then we're like at right back. So I think there's something there around fullback for me that we desperately need something in, whether that's going to be a loan or a freebie. I think it's just something just to really shore that up for me. But then again, I think it comes down to the wingers, the goal scoring wingers. That's going to be the real challenging transfers to bring in. They're going to be the challenging deals, because we're really overshooting for the quality. We're really going sort of hammer and tong. We've just seen another bid for Kevin, who everyone is now an expert on, and we all want him desperately, for £37 million or euros, I think it was, which is ridiculous from a Fulham perspective. That's really bloody high bid for I think would probably be our record signing, but there we go. But you know what? I am a very keen believer on. Remember, we signed £100 million worth of players. We didn't have a settled squad. We went into the season. We had an absolute shocking time and got relegated. I am a keen believer in a settled squad and a team who have played together and are already gelled, know what the manager wants, and that is already a huge leg up. You look at teams like Bournemouth, Brentford. I'm even going to mention Palace. I know they just had success, but I think they're going to lose Eze eventually. But once you kind of rip that core out and you're desperately trying to replace players who aren't of similar quality, like Mbermo and Visser for Brentford come to mind. Like, you've lost 50 goals and assists there. How do you replace that? They're also not in Europe, so how do you bring? They're in the same stance as us, probably in a worse position, because at least we've kind of got a manager who is settled and knows what he wants. Like, they've got I've forgotten his name now, but he was a pundit on EFL who I absolutely hated. But he just it's brand new face. He doesn't have his identity yet. Is that really going to be a project that you're going to come into? I don't think so. So for us to have Iwobi, ESR, and all these absolute core players, Bassi, Anderson, Leno, is absolutely massive. The fact that we've still got that core back line is fantastic. And I think that goes a long way, especially in the start of the season. So, it's a great time for us to play Brighton. They haven't really replaced João Pedro, their main striker. They bought a 19-year-old striker for 30-odd million, but is he really going to hit the sort of the Premier League like a duck to water? I'm not too convinced. So it's a great time to sort of play these teams who are sort of licking their wounds a little bit, trying to rebuild. Man United's another one. They've got all these stars that have come in, but they've never played with each other. So, to have Brighton and Man United at such early stage, that's really key for us, because, like I said, we've got that core squad, and I think that is massive for us going into the team. But would I like signings? Yeah, absolutely. A couple of signings just to sort of shore us up a little bit. Keith Andrews, thank you very much, Cole. That's the guy. Terrible manager. So there you go. That's going to be interesting to watch. But yeah, that's my take. I think we need to really add a couple of really quality players that could take us to that next level. But I don't think we're in an awful position, given everyone around us has been absolutely ransacked.
Yeah, I think it's important to actually, because while the base is good, you can actually drip feed better players into that, as opposed to just kind of scrambling and getting like a whole bunch. Off the top of my head, I think of somebody like a Scott McTominay, like going into Napoli. Napoli's a pretty established squad, so then he can just be placed in, and he can just do something great there. And I would like something like that to come along for us. And I actually think, I agree with Skibby, we're in a really good position. Just kind of comes down to actually spending the money and how it's sold. But I do think there's a selling point there. That's all said from the position of foresight. I have no idea what's going to happen, and I really hate getting my hopes up, because as I've said, I've just watched Normal People, and love dies. Love dies, and bad things happen. So anything can happen, and yeah, that stresses me.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of those ones where I'm not unhappy, but I'm not overly happy at the same time. Like
Yeah.
it feels like we could have done more, but I'm glad that we haven't lost Robinson, we haven't lost Leno, we haven't yet lost someone like Pereira or Robinson. Sorry, not I've already said Robinson. Muniz. We haven't lost like we have done in previous seasons some of those really key parts to the squad, and so. I'd love to have 5 new signings. I'd love for us to have spent 100 million. I'd love to us be bringing in players like Dewsbury Hall and Kevin and some of those other guys. But realistically, this squad is strong enough to stay up. It proved it last season. We haven't lost any of those key players that kept us up. It's a shame that we're not kicking on to the next level by signing some really key players, but at the same time, we're keeping a core together. And I think when you look at the new teams who've been promoted, they're going to struggle this season. I'm not worried about the fact. I think the bottom 3 is almost set in stone. And so I feel like as long as we play to our full potential and sign a handful of players and don't get unlucky with injuries, we're going to be very comfortably mid-table again. And I'm pretty happy with that. Really, I think that's what, like we've said many times, 4 or 5 years ago, if you'd offered that to every Fulham fan, they would have taken it without even a second's thought. And interesting, Skibby, you mentioned you were looking at Brighton and looking ahead to Brighton. Some of the players they've sold, they lost Barco, who's their left back, João Pedro, Adingra went off to Sunderland. They lost a Stupinan to AC Milan as well. Like they have lost a number of players, and they haven't really massively replaced them. Bought in Tom Watson from Sunderland, bought in that youngster from Olympiacos, spent 30 million on him.
I think they're all under.
They obviously
21,
lost. Sorry, say again?
They're all under 21, aren't they?
I think so, yeah. And they bought De Kuyper in from Bruges as well for 20 million. They obviously lost Evan Ferguson was that January last year that he signed? So they are on paper, I'd say, a weaker team than they were last season. And like you said, I think it's a really good time to actually be coming up against them. And I'm hopeful.
Baleba
And obviously,
Baleba.
Yeah,
He's like going to Man United, I think.
yeah. I think, and like I said, we'll preview this in more depth on the After Dark episode coming up later this week. But I'm kind of quietly confident going into the season, and I'm not stressed. I think last season I was stressed. We'd lost Polina. We didn't look like we were replacing him properly. We were screaming out for a striker because we didn't know that Muniz could fill that gap, and we weren't really confident on Jimenez either. I feel like we'll get the goals out of those guys now. I feel like Josh King feels like a new signing. I feel like Wilson's been in such good form recently that he feels like a new signing as well, because he was obviously on the outer at the start of last season and worked his way into the side as well. We weren't sure on how Castagna would go, and he turned out to be a great signing. Bassi and Anderson as well. They're an established partnership now. It feels a lot more settled than it did this time last year. And so I just feel a lot more confident than I do this time last year. An interesting comment from Colm. Let's sort of move on to, we're already talking about the transfers, but Colm on our live stream on YouTube, do you think we have half an eye on the new PSR that will come in the following season, 1 year rather than a 3-year period? Skibby?
It's a confusing one, isn't it?
Because we don't know how it works, basically, yeah.
Because it just doesn't make any sense. So I know on paper we have said yes, like we need to get our wages down to, I think it's 85% of your revenue, which is fine. We're currently at around 85%, but when that figure was taken, we had Willian on board. But with that being said, new deals for Muniz, Wilson, and co will probably take us back to the same level anyway. So we really can't add to our wages. But we're sort of then thinking, okay, then maybe we're just sort of going to get a couple of loans in, that'll keep us down, and then when that kicks in the summer, we might be in a better position because we've already sort of tried to adjust it accordingly. But then once we started to really get to grips with that and come to terms with that, suddenly we're then putting in £37 million bid for Kevin. So that didn't make any sense to me, because we've either got the money or we don't. But the loose translation, which I think that we've kind of discussed in the Discord, is we're happy to spend money on an asset that we can see as low wages, but also a sell-on potential. So similar to the sort of system that Brighton have. I don't know whether a £37 million player is the right first player to do that with. Potentially, you'd probably want to look at a younger squad player who would probably be about 10 to 15 million at most, and then, you know, low wages. Similar to the Muniz project, right? We picked him up for about 10 million euros, I think, and we put him on like a 10 grand a week contract, if that. That seems like the real sensible way to do it. But, you know, I don't know. At the moment, it's just really confusing that, you know, there's one side saying we're looking after the PSR. There's, or SCR, I think it's got a new name. But then you've got one people saying the Khans are getting ready to sell us. That's why they're not putting the money in, which is a lie. They are clearly putting money in still. I think he even wrote off debt only about a month ago, which is a ridiculous amount. But then you've also got, you know, we've got one eye on PSR, but then it's also, we're still into the constriction of the current PSR. So, you know, that's the one where you can't have losses over 100 million every year for 3 years. So, you know, it is just getting more and more complex. I think we'd be stupid if we're not keeping an eye on the new PSR, call it that, next summer, because, you know, you're just going to absolutely screw yourself, and then you're going to have panic selling, which, you know, we've seen previously with, you know, teams like Leicester and co, who just need someone out the door just to not breach. But at the same time, I don't think that's the entire reason. I think the reason why we are seeing such little sort of motion within the transfer market is just simply the targets that we're choosing. Marco's got his targets, and it seems that Ali Mack and the board have their targets. You know, they're looking at someone. I think Kevin, for me, is potentially a more board-driven target, whereas I would say Nelson is probably the more tried and true. Marco knows what he's getting, and he's the one who's going to have to work with him every day, so he's more keen on Nelson. So I think you've got that kind of clash, but fundamentally it comes down to the quality of the players that we're looking to add. You know, we're being linked with, you know, Chukwueze from AC Milan wasn't keen on us in the January transfer window. You know, we're still trying to convince him. We're not just getting trash in who would happily sign for us at the beginning of July and actually doesn't really add anything to our squad. And then when you look at the actual transfer market for the Premier League up to date, I don't think, apart from Drewsbury Hall, I don't think there's a player that I would have said we've missed out on. So at the same time, I think we're just being very particular with our targets. We're aiming high, which everybody wants us to do, but unfortunately those deals don't happen overnight. So what do you want? Do you want absolute trash to come in July, sort of, you know, gel with the team ready for the first game of the season, but actually probably just sit on the bench and don't actually add anything? Or do you want that player who, you know, the Chukwuezes, the Kevins potentially, or those players who could take us to that next level, but, you know, are going to be sort of sitting on themselves and waiting for potentially a team in Europe who would give them a chance. But when it comes to the end of the window, if that hasn't happened, then suddenly Fulham looks like a great option for them. So I think it's a mixture of PSR, but I also think it's a mixture of the sort of the targets that we're going for.
It's annoying, isn't it, as well? Because I feel that, like, these words like PSR, like, it really does sing like a very bureaucratic standards of practice way of just saying the same thing will just keep on happening. And now we have a justified reason for those things to keep on happening. It's all very formulaic, and I don't really like it. I think it will kind of just be business as usual. I think it's a bit of a cock tease to assume in 3 years' time, though, it's going to be different. I don't reckon it will be different. I reckon if we have a target, we'll try to aim for that target as best we can, but we're never going to be hyper aggressive. Unless it's a bit of like a sure thing or a nostalgia bait, which we're very, very known for now. I mean, Anderson and Cess and the like. So yeah, I don't think it's actually going to massively hinder us as much as it threatens to, and I don't necessarily think it's massively going to like improve as it could potentially promise. which is a very roundabout way of just saying things will kind of be the same. But you know what? I think the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So I think it's actually not the worst thing. It's just a load of nonsense, in my opinion.
I think the other thing to consider, I do think we do have a bit of an eye on it. Not so much the
You
new
have
PSR or the SCR or whatever it's called, but more so the fact that we know that there will be changes in the future. And we're sort of prepping ourselves a bit. And if you look at some of the extensions that happened last year, you look at, I'm just having a look now at who has their contracts ending, has just a single year left on their contract. Kearney, Pereira, Traore, Jimenez, Harry Wilson, Cess, and Muniz are all in the final year of their contract now. Now, I think that realistically, we're not going to see Kearney, Pereira, Traore, Jimenez next season. I'd say we'll probably, depending on how Wilson goes this year, we'll renew Wilson, we'll likely renew Cess, and we'll probably renew Muniz if we don't sell him. But you're probably looking at knocking off, hundreds of thousands from your wage budget there. And yes, we will give some new deals to some of those players. But then the season after, you've got Leno, Lecomte, Harrison Reed, Sasa Lukic, Castagna, Diop, Bassi, their contracts expiring. We're probably likely to upgrade on those players and do a bit of a clear out over the next couple of years on just letting players' contracts expire. So I think we're probably using that as a bit of foresight as well, and looking at it and going, let's keep hold of this squad for now. We know what we're spending on them. We know what our budget is, and we can stick to it quite closely. And then down the track, we can actually reassess when we release players, because we can release players and then replace them. And basically just, if we're spending 85% as we currently are apparently, then we can actually just say, right, Jimenez, his 100,000 is gone and we're bringing in a player who can have that 100,000. Kenny, someone put it out there that Kenny was on 100,000 this year. Not sure that's true. But if Kenny's earning 100,000, we can replace him next year with a £100,000 player as well. So I think there is some planning ahead in that regard. I don't think it's hindering us as much as just our general transfer practices.
Yeah.
But just onto that point you mentioned about Tom Kearney, I don't think we replace him for 100k either. I think you could potentially pick up a decent centre mid, whether they be squad or starting, for even half.
For sure.
I think you can pick up a very good Premier League player. I think Shrewsbury Hall, was only on 50 to 60k at Chelsea. So if you think about that, if we were able to bring him in, I know that's not the case, but if we didn't renew Kearney and we brought in,
well, I think
Shrewsbury
Josh
Hall,
King slipped straight into that position anyway. So
yeah, and he's
it's
not
one
gonna
of
be
those.
expensive.
Yeah. What's
his 4-year deal? Because he signed a 4-year deal, right?
Yeah. Let me try and see if they've got the
that's gotta be
info
only,
up there.
10k. That's got to be about
Yeah,
10,
they haven't got
15K
anything on
that
it, but
much.
I reckon he's probably on some sort of deal where he's on 10k this year, 20 to 25 next year, depending on appearances. I'd say he's got some triggers there that will increase his wage. But I mean, that makes total sense. You've got him coming in and replacing £100,000 player, and all of a sudden that frees up the space for bringing in a couple of £50,000 players.
Exactly.
That's the kind of quality level that we should be looking at, I'd suggest. So I think there's, and as Steve Reynolds says here as well, there's a lot that probably hangs on Marco, and it does start to seem like this might be Marco's final year. Some of the things he's been saying, that he's maybe a little bit more interested in taking the next step somewhere else, and there's definitely some things to consider over the next 12 months, I think, and it does maybe point to why we've been so quiet in the transfer market this summer. There's a lot of unknowns, and there's still a couple of weeks left of the window, so I expect we'll see some business done, but I'd be shocked if we're spending more than the sort of 40 that's been touted for this Kevin deal. And then after that, I'd assume there's not going to be a huge much more.
Have we talked potentially about what Silva needs to achieve this season in order to keep him and actually make him stay? Have we discussed that yet? Or not really?
I don't think it's down to his achievement. I mean, if he got us into the Champions League or into Europe, I don't think he's leaving.
Yeah.
But
Like, what would be like the bare minimum? Like, what's like the bare minimum to keep Silva around? Because I can't really be asked getting another manager next season. I think that would like turn a lot of stuff to shit. So I just for
I
me,
think Europe.
Yeah,
and then if we don't get Europe, that's it. Is that more or less
think
what you're
so.
saying?
I think so. I think for, his beliefs and what he actually wants from a football
wouldn't
club
blame him.
as a manager, 100%. He's not getting backed the way he would get back. Imagine if he went to Forest and he just gave this list of players and they just bought them all. Or if you look at, as Skibby and I were talking about beforehand, you look at Everton, who've, spending big money. Apparently they're about to sign Jack Grealish as well as Dewsbury Hall. So they're actually, putting in the effort and making some big signings and making it work. He's not getting that at Fulham. So I would 100% understand if he just went, nah, I'm done with this. If you get into Europe, at least you know that there's some sort of cash injection coming and you can justify having to sign new players. But if it's another year where we finish outside the European spots and we just end up, consolidating again and slowly strengthening and being sustainable, I think he's definitely done his time. And I would happily see him off in the same way we saw off Palhinha to Bayern Munich, going, thank you for everything and good luck.
I hate that he's at Spurs now, just quietly. I haven't been able to say that live on the air, but the audience will know how much that breaks my heart. Like, it really breaks me. But anyway, we digress.
Let's move on to just a final thing before we wrap up, because I do want to leave a fair bit of stuff for the guys on After Dark to talk about later this week. And like I said, they will be previewing the Brighton game and really kicking into the season. But the away kit, Skibby, I'll throw to you first. The bright green throwback, how are we feeling?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I think it's purely down to nostalgia reasons and nothing more. That season, 1999-2000, was probably one of the first seasons that I really remember Fulham. I think before that, I was going to games, but I was only like 7 or 8, so I didn't really take it all in. But I just remember, Pesky Salido and Jeff Horsfield in the sort of the lime green, Steve Hayward. Yeah, and it was just where I wouldn't say where I fully fell in love with Fulham, because obviously that happened previously and I was still going to games and things with my dad, but this was the sort of the one I really remember, and I really wanted that kit, and I can't remember why. I think it was my dad was like, well, get the white one because Fulham play in white. He didn't get it, so
you don't understand me.
Exactly, don't understand. He's like we're the whites, we're not the greens. I was like, but I want the green one. So yeah, to see this with the old badge, just the lime green with the navy, it's just fantastic. It's probably one of my favourite away kits since the Pizza Hut black and red.
Yeah,
it's just great. And I mean, if you were at the game at the weekend, you would have also seen a very crazy man walking around with a ceramic mug with the colours with the old badge on it. That was Dave. If you just see him in future, just point him to the nearest steward, and they'll sort him out. But we were very disappointed that he did buy a pint and he didn't pour it into his brand new mug.
Bless him.
But that would have been fantastic. But yeah, I think they've just absolutely smashed the marketing. You've got the shirt, the mugs that I talked about. You've got the scarves of the green and navy. They're really going into it, and I think just. It's just a really easy marketing ploy with sort of a club like Fulham, or any club really. Play on everyone's nostalgia, because we always love the good old days.
Member berries.
So, I mean, exactly, yeah, maybe. For South Park fans out there. But yeah, it's just both kits right now. I'm excited for the third kit. If they are going to release the third kit, or just move last year's red and black to being the third, I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's cool. I love it.
I really like it as well.
Go on, Sammy.
Well, I really like it. I really love the design. I really back it. I mean, I like things that are brash and slightly offensive. My only kind of, I don't even call it like a critique, but I guess it's more of just kind of like my only kind of like opening of like the conversation would be like, I think, as much as I really like the old badge, it does send a bit of a confusing message as to kind of like, because how heavy can you lean on like nostalgia if you want to go forward? And like I like it, and as we said before, I'm all about the member berries. But it does kind of. I'm like, what? Because for me, I'm like, if you're gonna go and put it out a shirt with the old badge, you kind of got to go for broke, and you got to do like, you got to just bring the old badge back, because otherwise it just kind of is a little bit confusing again from like a marketing point of view. So that kind of throws me a little bit, but it's not going to stop me from buying a shirt. I think it's just more of just an interesting conversation piece. Like the shirt's still banging.
Yeah, I mean it's been discussed, and there's a lot of clubs who do it. I think Leeds are doing it. Newcastle have done it as well, bringing back the old badge on just a single shirt, and I don't mind it. I think, I mean, I love the original badge. I prefer it to our current badge. I think our current badge is fine. It's from a marketing perspective, it's very easily recognizable. It stands out pretty well and tells you what it does. FFC. It's pretty simple, but I do like the old badge a little more, just because I think it just has a bit more character, a bit more history to it, and just feels a little bit different. You know, you see all the badges nowadays are all just plain circles with a logo in the middle and some words around the outside. The old school shield with, you know, a crest and the bits and pieces around it, and just the nostalgia that it brings with it. I do prefer that badge, and I think having it on our away shirt, I'd love to have it on our away shirt every season, and just go, that's what we do for our away shirt, is we've always got that badge on there.
Do you know what my thing is with this, and this is purely just kind of like a me thing, because I like getting a player number on the back, and I like getting I like going with what. So last year I got Smith Rowe, because I feel that Smith Rowe was like the signing of the season. I think last year will be remembered for Smith Rowe, depending on, I mean, Smith Rowe on my knees, depending on like the way that you see it, but he was the poster boy of like last season, so I went with Smith Rowe because I got it at the start of the season. For I think the white, I think I'm gonna get a Jimenez shirt, because I think that'll look sleek with like a nice 7. I don't know what the green goes with. I don't know who goes with the green, to be perfectly honest.
I'll be getting
And
Pescasolido on the back.
Yeah, or Jeff Horsfield.
I can't do that. I have to stay current for me. It's like I have, but like who in the current squad radiates the green? I don't really know.
You know what it screams to me? It screams Sammy 69. You know.
Don't give us
so
ideas.
Low. That is so low of you. Like,
what you mean is it's so accurate,
my
unfortunately.
Oh, come on, you made me say, like, come on. I know I play a cantankerous.
You're more classy than
give
that.
Me a little bit. Thank you. Christ.
Oh, look, I think it's one of those things, and as we were talking about, you know, I think Pescasolido when I see this shirt, and I think you will now think of a new player when you see this shirt, and it'll be someone. Maybe it's Josh King this season has his breakthrough year, or maybe we sign Kevin and you get Kevin on the back of the shirt, and that's that standout player. I think someone will make this shirt their own. I love it.
Josh King, but I don't like the number 24. That's a me thing. I just hate the number 24.
I think I'm going to get the home shirt and King on the back, because I think this is going to be Josh King's big year, and I think that's the one.
I back that.
But I love the kit. I think it's a great throwback. And talking of the third kit, I know it's obviously always exciting to get a new kit, but I would be very happy to get that black and the away kit from last season, the black and red stripes, pushed to our third kit. I think that would be a really slick set of 3 kits for Fulham to have. Your classic white and a really clean, slick white, a really good throwback in the green, and then the black and red stripes I think would be perfect.
We wouldn't clash with anyone though, would we, in green? I don't think there's any clubs I can think of in green.
Well, I haven't seen it in person and seen it on the pitch. I wonder how it would go with white.
No,
is it going to be a bit too close?
I'd say it's still pretty obvious.
It's very fluoro.
I mean, it was in a poorly lit pop-up shop in the stand, but I would say it's still.
My only thought would be maybe a white clash, because there's no yellow, is there?
No,
there's teams that play in
Norwich,
green,
but they're not here.
Wolves,
unless we were to play like.
no.
But even
could be
like
a Wolves,
Plymouth Argyle green.
Wolves
But,
is a good
if
call
we
though,
played in a
Sammy. I
cup,
think that would clash with the yellow potentially.
maybe.
So at that point, I don't know if it's worth having a full new third kit. There's been some talk of an all black kit with some gold in it as well, which would probably look very good.
I'd like that.
But yeah, look, I think Fulham have nailed it this season. Some proper bespoke kits, some really good throwbacks as well. It's nice because I think we've had some pretty average kits the last few years. They've been nice, but they haven't been great. So it's good to see a bit of effort being thrown into something like that.
Do you know
I really
what
like
would
a polo.
Do you know what would make me put this as a 10 out of 10? I would say this is a 9 out of 10. But to make this 10 out of 10 is if you had the 90s Adidas logo with like
yes,
the tree, like the leaf.
100%. Yeah.
I don't know what you call it, but
I'm gonna one up you.
Just the old school, the retro logo.
Do you know what would make it 10 out of 10 for me if we had long sleeves? Because I feel that long sleeves need to make a comeback. I've been saying this now for like... Everyone does it.
Go on.
Everyone does it. Just give them the long sleeves. Like, what's the point? Everyone's wearing an undershirt anyway.
Arsenal have released their away shirt in long sleeve version because I know that a friend of mine bought it, and I am 100% with you, Sammy. I used to love a long sleeve shirt, and it is just,
fresh.
Well, yeah, it's just nice to wear long sleeves. Like,
I'll buy you the
colours.
goalkeeper's shirt if you want, Skibby.
I've thought about getting the goalkeeper's shirt a couple of times.
I've got a
just
goalkeeper's shirt, but it's not the same.
It's not.
They do. It's a lovely blue shirt this year, though. I do like it. And red for when we play in green, which is
it's not like a
it's been blue for years now, I think.
Like
but yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what we do for our third kit. I love the shorts that go with the green as well. The blue shorts with the green stripe on it as well. It looks slick. So, I agree though. The retro logo would have been very, very good.
Something we do need to check though is, are the women's team going to be sponsored by AEW again this year?
Oh, if they are, I'll be furious. I'll be so mad because I want it so bad.
That's a very good question. I think so. I think they probably will do.
How much longer do we have to be gambling sponsors? Because I thought that was
This is the final season.
Last year.
I just want AEW. And I feel like everybody wants AEW. I know we have to do the.
And it's a funnel into the club. It's a free funnel for the club. We just
that's how we're going to be getting around SCR next year, because AEW will be renamed Fulham AEW, and all of a sudden we'll be turning over $2 billion a year and be able to spend quite a lot more on wages.
I'm telling you right now, an AEW shirt will be the new Pizza Hut, like, because everyone will get around that. That's iconic. Actually,
I mean,
that
me and
would make this
Skibby
shirt
do
better.
already have our AEW shirts. I've got my signed one up on the wall.
Hardcore. That's lit.
Yeah.
I reckon. Okay, if the green shirt was in had an AEW logo, that is an instant 10 out of 10 for me.
You have to try and get that done.
I'll be keeping an eye on match worn shirts if they do that.
100%. Guys, before we finish up, just a final call out for our Discord. So fortunately, we've got many people on the Discord already, which has been great. But especially with the last few weeks of the transfer window, we're fortunate to have Fulham transfer news and a few other people who seem to have a little bit of inside information. There's a lot of chat there constantly. It's always great. I wake up every morning to about 500 odd messages on the Discord and able to go back through all the conversations that have been missed overnight. But it's a really great community of people talking just Fulham stuff. Obviously, Twitter, which is now X, is a great place to get all your Fulham news, but it's completely diluted by all the other crap on Twitter. The Discord is just Fulham, and it's a really great place to just meet like-minded Fulham fans, talk all things Fulham, and really interact with the community that we've built there. So please do join up. You can find the links on all of our socials. So yeah, check it out and join up. If you have any issues, feel free to send us a message. But guys, last pre-season pod in a couple of days' time, we're going to be previewing a Premier League game of football. It's been a weird off-season where we haven't had a huge amount to talk about, which is maybe a good thing, but I'm looking forward to getting stuck into the season now and actually talking about competitive games of football and watching us jump up and down the table and hopefully have a good season ahead. Sammy, looking forward to the season?
I am looking forward to the season. I do actually just want to quickly make a quick shout out. I think that like Dave, Mark, Mike, Skibby, you guys have actually done an amazing job pre-season because I've been listening to all the shows from my executive position. And no, genuinely, like, I know we say it every year, and I know I can't believe that it's been going on for this long, but I could not be prouder to have you guys represent in such a positive way. Thoroughly interesting chats. It's been a beautiful preseason from that perspective, and I look forward to the season coming ahead. What are you doing?
Skibby, excited for the season, mate?
You've gone all really creepy there.
Yeah, my light just died, so now I'm taking on like my Dexter murder type lighting. But no, that's all good. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the season. Obviously, it's sad to say, but Fulham is my life. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that first game back in the Hammersmith End. Just that's where it's going to start to feel real. Unfortunately for me, I say unfortunately, I'm going on holiday to somewhere awesome, but I'm going to be away for the first sort of 3 weeks of the season. So I'll be landing in Auckland on Friday. But saying that means I have to get up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to watch the Brighton game and and potentially the Man United game as well. I think that's 4:30, and I think Chelsea's after that. So my start of the season is doing it Aussie style. And
you coming to Melbourne?
I can't squeeze in Melbourne, unfortunately.
Come on.
I did look.
Come on, it would be carnage.
I know it will. I think that's probably the reason I'm not allowed.
It's a good reason not to.
But no, I'm looking forward to the season, and hopefully we're off to a good start. Like I said, we've got a decent start against some teams who have been active in the transfer window, whether it be incomings or outgoing. So it's a good time to play them with a settled team.
Sammy, I assume you want to answer that question from Colm?
If you beg me, Colm. If you beg me.
I'm not going to tell people who aren't watching on YouTube what the question was, just so Sammy's answer is, if you beg me.
Yeah.
Guys, we can wrap it up there. Thank you very much for joining, Sammy. Thank you, Skibby, as well. We will be back with After Dark later this week. I believe we're recording on Friday, so that one will come out just before the Brighton game. Very much looking forward to that one and very much looking forward to the season starting. Thank you to everyone who's joined on the live stream. Thank you to everyone who continues to support us and joins our Discord, supports us across our social media. We do really appreciate it, as always, and very much looking forward to the season ahead. Who's going to give us a Come On You Whites to finish off the stream?
I'll do it really deep into the mic just to continue on.
Okay, well, thank you. And as always,
come on, you Whites.
Creepy. Cheers, everyone.